Advances in technology will give us more time for leisure in tomorrow's living. The family vacation will always be decided by a family vote, but getting there will be simplified by a punched card system, and the car is automatically operated and guided to preset destinations. Highly specialized pleasure vehicles will have every convenience of home. Today's insurmountable barriers and sheer cliffs will be scaled by highway escalators. One minute, our car is a highway vehicle. The next, a cabin cruiser.
Highway and automotive design will move forward together. First, we'll have the more efficient gas turbine car, then the speedier jet, the inexhaustible atom, and possibly the sun-powered electro-suspension car, which needs no wheels.
These spectacular conceptions will lead to new dimensions for the American highway. Such visionary ideas, which today seem sheer fantasy, will be commonplace to future generations. There will be miles of tubular highways, air-conditioned routes across hot desert wastelands, over sub-freezing mountain ranges, and even under the oceans. These giant arteries will link together all nations and help create a better understanding among the peoples of the world. As in the past, the highway will continue to play a vital role in the progress of civilization. It will be our magic carpet to new hopes, new dreams, and a better way of life for the future.
We want to have a fun, exciting future that if you could look in a crystal ball and see the future, you'd be like, yes, I wish I could be there now. That's what we want.
Down to 3 Raptor engines. We can see those chopsticks now.
Megadilla has caught the booster.
This is absolutely insane. On the first ever attempt, we have successfully caught the Super Heavy booster back at the launch tower.
What an incredible view!
He hated it. Said he wanted this stuff.
100 years ago, a new theory about human nature was put forward by Sigmund Freud. He had discovered, he said, primitive sexual and aggressive forces hidden deep inside the minds of all human beings. Forces which, if not controlled, led individuals and societies to chaos and destruction. This series is about how those in power have used Freud's theories to try and control the dangerous crowd in an age of mass democracy. At the heart of the story is not just Sigmund Freud, but other members of the Freud family. This episode is about Freud's American nephew, Edward Bernays. Bernays is almost completely unknown today, but his influence on the 20th century was nearly as great as his uncle's. Because Bernays was the first person to take Freud's ideas about human beings and use them to manipulate the masses. He showed American corporations for the first time how they could make people want things they didn't need by linking mass-produced goods to their unconscious desires. Out of this would come a new political idea of how to control the masses. By satisfying people's inner selfish desires, one made them happy and thus docile. It was the start of the all-consuming self, which has come to dominate our world today.
Handy.
Great, make it us.
Okay.
Mr. Musk, how are you?
Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Those Merlin engines are fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, good idea for an electric jet.
You do?
Yeah.
Then we'll make it work.
His name is Elon Musk. He saved free speech. He created so many different great things. Where is he? Come on up here, Elon. He created the first major American car company in generations, and his rocket company is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space. Come here. Take over, Elon. Just take over.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA. Well, first of all, I want to say what an honor it is to be here. And, you know, the true test of someone's character is how they behave under fire. And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight! Blood coming down the face. Now, America is the home of the brave. And there's no truer test than courage under fire. So who do you want representing America? Yeah, absolutely. And I think this election, I think it's the most important election of our lifetime. This is no ordinary election.
What the corporations realized they had to do was transform the way the majority of Americans thought about products. One leading Wall Street banker, Paul Mazur of Lehman Brothers, was clear about what was necessary. We must shift America, he wrote, from a needs to a desires culture. People must be trained to desire, to want new things even before the old have been entirely consumed. We must shape a new mentality in America. Man's desires must overshadow his needs.
Prior to that time, there was no American consumer. There was the American worker, and there was the American owner, and they manufactured and they saved and they ate what they had to, and the people shopped for what they needed. And while the very rich may have bought things they didn't need, most people did not. And Mazur envisioned a break with that, where you would have things that you didn't actually need, but you wanted, as opposed to needed.
And the man who would be at the center of changing that mentality for the corporations was Edward Bernays.
Bernays really is the guy within the United States, more than anybody else, who sort of brings to the table psychological theory as something that is an essential part of how, from the corporate side, of how we are going to appeal to the masses effectively. And the whole sort of merchandising establishment and sales establishment is ready for Sigmund Freud. I mean, they are ready for understanding what motivates the human mind. And so that there's this real openness to Bernays' techniques being used to sell products to the masses.
Beginning in the early 20s, the New York banks funded the creation of chains of department stores across America. They were to be the outlets for the mass-produced goods, and Bernays' job was to produce the new type of customer. Bernays began to create many of the techniques of mass consumer persuasion that we now live with. He was employed by William Randolph Hearst to promote his new women's magazines, and Bernays glamorized them by placing articles and advertisements that linked products made by others of his clients to famous film stars like Clara Bow, who was also his client. Bernays also began the practice of product placement in the movies, and he dressed the stars at the film's premieres with clothes and jewelry from other firms he represented. He was, he claimed, the first person to tell car companies they could sell cars as symbols of male sexuality. He employed psychologists to issue reports that said products were good for you and then pretended they were independent studies. He organized fashion shows in the department stores and paid celebrities to repeat the new and essential message: you bought things not just for need, but to express your inner sense of yourself to others.
Megabilla has caught the booster.
This is absolutely insane. On the first ever attempt, we have successfully caught the Super Heavy booster back at the launch tower.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow. Climb aboard. You are about to take a journey out of this world into the world of the future. Forget the world around you. Forget the people around you. You are entering Futurama, alone with your own thoughts. Have you ever wondered where we will find the food, clothing, and shelter we will need to sustain the world's exploding population in the years ahead? In the timeless distances of outer space? Perhaps. The technology of today is already helping us penetrate the silent darkness of space. Man himself has taken the first tiny step into this vast unknown, and we can only imagine what resources will soon be brought back to Earth by these early pioneers. But what about our own Earth? Are there not still resources here to meet the needs of the world tomorrow?
Well, geologists are known for their groundbreaking research, and recent efforts include locating critical earth mineral deposits, and that research is happening right now here in Siouxland.
Geologists from Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Minnesota have embarked on a geological survey of the Spirit Lake tectonic zone that is buried, and they are collecting their data with the use of low-flying airplanes.
And this survey is just one piece of the nationwide Earth Remapping Resource Initiative, also known as the Earth MRI, which is a response to an executive order from former President Donald Trump back in 2017. It amounts to a historic resurvey and remapping of the American continent that, based on this new paradigm, may fundamentally change the picture of the landscape in ways that haven't significantly changed in decades, maybe even centuries.
There's this huge funding from the government that they're trying to allocate to the best way possible to understand the geology of the entire country. And this has been selected as one of those focus areas because there's potential for critical minerals in this area.
I say that because wherever they find these minerals, everything in that area is going to drastically change. It may or may not respect current population zones as they search for these rare minerals that they claim they have to have. So with this new technology, they're able to look more than 3,000 feet below the ground to discover untapped sources of rare earth minerals in ways that weren't possible in the 20th century. 3D models and maps are important for improving our understanding of critical mineral and geothermal resource potential, as well as water resources and groundwater pathways near legacy mining areas.
When integrated with other data sets, it can reveal the location of potential mineral formations and map groundwater resources that can support communities, industries, and the environment.
Both methods map out geology underneath trees and vegetation, Shaw said. This is a way of passively seeing under the skin of the earth. By mapping out the faults, folds, and tectonic history surrounding a known lithium deposit, like that in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, scientists can learn more about the geologic context of the lithium. That can help geologists better understand perhaps where lithium is likely to occur. So you can find this stuff on the usgs.gov site. There are similar flights doing this imaging of the geology. It's been funded by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and they're basically aggressively mapping mineral deposits all over, for sure in New Mexico, Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Wyoming's Laramie Mountains, Sioux Falls region of South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Montana, Idaho, Alaska, and in an earlier phase in Alabama, Florida, in Georgia, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Colorado, New York, and I'm sure in time, if they haven't already covered the rest of the places, there's a good chance they will. They're looking for this stuff essentially everywhere that it might be.
Some people in south central Pennsylvania may soon notice a low-flying helicopter or airplane in the sky. These flights are all part of a new survey by the U.S. Geological Survey.
The massive survey marks an unprecedented change for our nation at large. Changes that North Carolina is now ground zero for, as the age of lithium is now upon us. An age of global reliance on relatively tiny amounts of rare earth element minerals. In fact, 2024 was promoted as the potential year for lithium.
Have more time for fun and pleasure, family moments you will treasure. It's an opportunity to live better electrically.
Electric vehicles, cell phones, laptops, e-bikes, and other green energy technologies, including solar panels, and more. All of this is part of a global economy reliant upon rare earth minerals, most notably lithium, but also a couple dozen others. And in turn, American interest in so-called energy security are moving desperately to maneuver and source these essential minerals for the digital age, which are, at the present time, heavily dominated by China.
China, 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 China.
Thus, in the last few years, these vital rare earth elements have become really important in the national security imperative for the U.S. and its allies. Since June 2022, the formation of the Minerals Security Partnership, a coalition between 14 nations, Australia, Canada, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, Norway, Republic of Korea, Sweden, the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union. They're all in partnership with representatives of BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Rio Tinto, and Anglo American, who strategize, quote, breaking China's chokehold over rare earth minerals that are non-negotiable for the high-tech sector. DARPA and several branches of the federal government are focused on these rare earth minerals, the critical linchpin of the clean energy future. In 2023, the Department of Energy declared 18 critical minerals as the, quote, electric 18.
Critical because of the risk for supply chain disruptions due to any number of reasons, from political, regulatory, and social factors to basic availability.
3 rare earth elements, neodymium, dysprosium, and praseodymium, all just household names, all of them, are some of the most vulnerable critical minerals to supply chain disruptions. High-performance magnets require rare earths for fabrication, and these magnets are used in a litany of clean energy technologies: wind turbines, electric vehicles, solar panels, next-generation electric batteries, and efficient lighting systems. What a plan for efficiency, basing it on minerals that they don't know where to find. This is what's happening.
And then, in 1928, a president came to power who agreed with Bernays. President Hoover was the first politician to articulate the idea that consumerism had become the central motor of American life. After his election, he told a group of advertisers and public relations men, "You have taken over the job of creating desire and have transformed people into constantly moving happiness machines. Machines which have become the key to economic progress." What was beginning to emerge in the 1920s was a new idea of how to run mass democracy. At its heart was the consuming self, which not only made the economy work, but was happy and docile, and so created a stable society.
Both Bernays and Littman's concept of managing the masses takes the idea of democracy and it turns it into a palliative. It turns it into giving people some kind of feel-good medication that will respond to an immediate pain or immediate yearning, but will not alter the objective circumstances one iota. I mean, democracy really, the idea of democracy at its heart was about changing the relations of power that had governed the world for so long. And Bernays' concept of democracy was one of maintaining the relations of power, even if it meant that one needed to sort of stimulate the psychological lives of the public. And in fact, in his mind, that was what was necessary. That if you can keep stimulating the irrational self, then leadership can basically go on doing what it wants to do.
You guys are awesome. Honestly, this is like... Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of positive energy that America is all about. Yeah. USA, 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 USA. Ah! Yes.
I mean, many years ago, I was thinking like, well, what would inhibit alignment of collective human will with artificial intelligence? And the low data rate of humans, especially our slow output rate, would necessarily, just because it's because the communication is so slow, would diminish the link between humans and computers. Like, the more you're a tree, the less you know what the tree is like, let's say you look at a tree, you look at this plant or whatever, and like, hey, I'd really like to make that plant happy, but it's not saying a lot, you know.
So the more we increase the data rate that humans can intake and output, then that means the better, the higher the chance we have in a world full of AGIs.
Yeah, we could better align collective human will with AI if the output rate, especially, was dramatically increased. Like, and I think there's potential to increase the output rate by, I don't know, 3, maybe 6, maybe more orders of magnitude. So it's better than the current situation.
And that output rate would be by increasing the number of electrodes, number of channels, and also maybe implanting multiple neural links.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a world in the next couple of decades where it's hundreds of millions of people have neural links?
Yeah, I do.
Do you think when they see the capabilities, the superhuman capabilities that are possible, and then the safety is demonstrated?
Yeah, if it's extremely safe, and you have and you can have superhuman abilities, and let's say you can upload your memories, you know, so you wouldn't lose memories, then I think probably a lot of people would choose to have it. It would supersede the cell phone, for example. I mean, it's the biggest problem that a phone has is trying to figure out what you want. So that's why you've got autocomplete, and you've got output, which is all the pixels on the screen. But from the perspective of the human, the output is so friggin' slow. Desktop or phone is desperately just trying to understand what you want. And there's an eternity between every keystroke from a computer standpoint.
Yeah.
So
the computer's talking to a tree, a slow-moving tree that's trying to swipe.
Yeah. So, if you had computers that are doing trillions of instructions per second, and a whole second went by, I mean, there's a trillion things it could have done, you know?
Yeah. I think it's exciting and scary for people because once you have a very high bit rate, that changes the human experience in a way that's very hard to imagine.
Yeah. We would be something different. I mean, some sort of futuristic cyborg. I mean, we're obviously talking about, by the way, like, it's not like around the corner. It's, you asked me what the distant future is. Like, maybe this is like, it's not super far away, but 10, 15 years, that kind of thing.
When can I get one? 10 years?
Probably less than 10 years. I think maybe within the next year or two that someone with a Neuralink implant will be able to outperform a pro gamer.
Nice.
I'm constantly amazed at the way that they keep inventing narratives that puts spin on something that people have done all their life and received absolutely no tangible benefit from, have seen no genuine change in course in terms of their life, but they will continue to do it. So that's really the only surprising thing to me, is that they continue to find different ways of reframing essentially what is always the same narrative. You get to choose between which deep state master will lead over you, or at least whichever puppet will be installed in the Oval Office. As we, again, think about what has happened this year, as it has been unveiled to the public, who apparently mostly were unaware of it. Yeah, you know that guy who's sitting in the Oval Office? He's not really running anything. He's not really home. There's no one there. So who is actually running things? Wow, I don't know. Who cares? Now go back to the voting booth and select the next puppet to be placed in the Oval Office. Again, when you really look at what has happened this year, it's pretty amazing. But here we are yet again. So that to me is the ultimate magic trick, is to get people to continue to vote in these meaningless selection processes.
Well, I think that's the goal. I think if people were to actually not participate, that's what they really fear. So I think they've done their best to invent new circumstances and situations and aspects of the spectacle that, I guess, keep people entertained enough or sucked in enough or something like that to keep people, or to, bring people that may have left the fold during COVID or, something like that sort of back in. And I think also, an aspect that of why this may be is related to how like social media and also like independent media has developed, and sort of this collapse of mainstream media credibility with the public, and how a lot of these people in so-called independent media now, or that aren't ostensibly part of the mainstream but were and are now quote unquote independent, people like Tucker Carlson, for example, the role of the importance of over fact, and some of the things that have been going on in this particular media sphere, and how that feeds sort of the hopium phenomenon that I know you've written a lot about. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on why this, some of the things that have happened that have allowed people to be sucked back in to this cycle that, as you noted, invariably has the same results no matter what happens.
Like fish not realizing that they're swimming in water, we don't realize that we are essentially swimming in media, in a mediated age like the one we're living in. So I see it on an almost structural level. The disintegration of the mass media has been the disintegration of spectacle, shared spectacle, which was the creation of a shared culture, which presumably we can all go back to our earlier years, maybe even our childhood, to remember there was the time when everyone knew the big movie that was playing right now. Everyone saw the big sports game that happened last night. Everybody saw that episode of Friends or Seinfeld or whatever it was. And everyone could talk about that. As has been noted time and time again, that shared culture is disintegrating as people have branched out on the internet and are now in their little bubbles. But I would say that the one uniting shared spectacle that still exists, that really brings everyone back to the table, is the political spectacle. And there really is an overlap between business, show business, and politics that is undeniable at this point. I mean, people used to joke about Ronald Reagan and, Hollywood actors being in positions of political power. Well, now we have, the parody of that even. What is that? It's reality TV star Donald Trump lining up to get back in the Oval Office. I just find that interesting, that really politics has become the spectacle again. I just find it interesting that platforms like Rumble and increasingly Twitter/X have been the congregating place for a lot of these mainstream alternative media figures who've made their bona fides in the minds of the public by being in some way taken off of their mainstream media platforms, in some way marginalized, so that they can cry, well, we've been censored, so therefore we're true, and hey, you can catch us on Rumble or Twitter or what have you. The concept is that there is a real thing called hope, which is a beautiful and important part of the human experience, that we do need hope, which is a vision for the future that will compel us and impel us towards reaching out, doing new things, trying new things, trying to extend ourselves. That is hope, and it is a beautiful thing that is part of the human experience, and we need that. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, the political spectacle comes along with its hopium, which is the synthetic substitute for actual hope, which in the exact same way that, for example, opioids will give people the simulacrum of happiness, it isn't an actual happiness. And once that starts to wear off, they'll need a bigger fix and they will realize it's ruining their lives. I think similarly, the political spectacle is the simulacrum of actual action in the real world. No, you don't have to actually do anything. You don't have to build anything or create anything. You just flip a lever. You just push a button. You vote for a candidate, and that is your action in the world. And then you go back to sleep for a couple of years. And that, unfortunately, is the function of hopium. And unfortunately, it works extremely well. If Gates's most amazing PR move was to turn himself into a philanthropist, here in the 21st century through the wonderful efforts of his eponymous foundation, then Peter Thiel's greatest PR maneuver has been to get himself branded as a libertarian and to have people unquestionably call him that for the last few decades, when really all of his maneuvers have been what I would say is in the exact opposite direction of anything resembling libertarianism. For example,
Absolutely.
Obviously he's made a large portion of his fortune directly, actively colluding with the deep state in setting up surveillance and targeting systems to be used against the public, which he then used that wealth to leverage into political power through, of course, Ted Cruz and J.D. Vance. He was an important part of the Trump transition team, had his own office in Trump Tower, got people installed in the White House, and, of course, a steering committee member of Bilderberg.
But I had to see this, and I turn it on, I see it. Now you have to understand, it left, I saw it leave, and it was beautiful white paint. Now it's coming down, and it's just dark brown. It's coming down at 10,000 miles an hour or something. I think it's 10,000. It's coming down at levels of speed that nobody ever even conceived of. And it's all burned, and where it's rough. But it's coming, and now it's turned around. It turns around. And you have the gantry, the big, beautiful gantry, and it's coming, and it's gonna, I said, oh, it's gonna crash, because you see at that bottom, this section right here, that sucker's, oh, I'm going, come on, baby, come on. And I didn't know, actually, if I'm watching a science fiction movie or am I watching the news, I didn't know what the hell I'm watching. But I see this thing coming down, and all of a sudden, it's going into the steel, the big steel gantry up here. It goes to things like 20 stories tall, too. It's going to crash. I said, oh, shit, it's going to crash. Coming down. And the lower section, right, it's coming right, it's ready. And then all of a sudden, whoa, fire, flames come pouring out of the lower section. It's jets. And they're pushing it over right here. And then it comes down. And I'm saying, I mean, is that the coolest thing you've ever seen, right? Is that the coolest? If you don't think I want a guy like that working for us, so, we've got to cherish our brilliant people. They don't treat him right. We've got to cherish our brilliant people because we don't have too many of them. Nobody does. Nobody does.
The simulacrum of hope. What a perfect term. Especially when you stop and think about all the different ways that false hope has been marketed to people way beyond the political arena, but for generations we've been propagandized with visions of the future and promises of technological utopia. And on the one hand, so much of it has just been pretty hollow propaganda, to the degree that the scientific consensus is that we are one of many species of animals that evolved on a rock floating in a void. And there's a sense of foreboding with the rise of the internet and all the technocratic agendas that come with it, where people see through the simulacrum to certain degrees. But if at the end of the day you're just looking to different men to deliver what only God can fulfill, then you're kind of doomed to the hopium. Maybe it's not political hopium or transhumanist hopium, but if your hope is coming from the things of this world and the things that the system can offer or potentially provide, it's a lie. It's a false gospel, a false hope. Just wanted to read from 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Therefore, having this ministry by the mercy of God, we do not lose heart. But we have renounced disgraceful, underhanded ways. We refuse to practice cunning or to tamper with God's word, but by the open statement of the truth, we would commend ourselves to everyone's conscience in the sight of God. And even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. In their case, the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. For what we proclaim is not ourselves, but Jesus Christ as Lord, with ourselves as your servants for Jesus' sake. For God, who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. We are afflicted in every way but not crushed, perplexed but not driven to despair, persecuted but not forsaken, struck down but not destroyed, always carrying in the body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be manifested in our bodies. For we who live are always being given over to death for Jesus' sake, so that the light of Jesus may also be manifested in our mortal flesh. So death is at work in us, but life in you. Since we have the same spirit of faith according to what has been written, "I believed and so I spoke," we also believe, and so we also speak, knowing that he who raised the Lord Jesus will raise us also with Jesus and bring us with you into his presence. For it is all for your sake, so that as grace extends to more and more people, it may increase thanksgiving to the glory of God. So we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light, momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal.
Have more time for fun and pleasure, family moments you will treasure. It's an opportunity to live better electrically.
There is a deception coming beyond your wildest dreams. And I honestly think they're practicing that deception with these SpaceX rockets that are supposedly landing perfectly down and getting caught by what they call these chopsticks. And I think there's evidence of this. Now watch what I point at here. I literally think what I'm catching here is one of the drones creating this holographic image of the rocket. Not only do I catch it here, but I catch it in another view of the supposed rocket that exploded. Now watch this on this next one too. Same thing. Think think I just caught a glimmer of it, and for whatever reason, I have the eyes to see this stuff. And guys, there's a deception coming. And I really think they're going to use this holographic technology. Look, you can even see these SpaceX rockets glitch out. How does that happen if that is a real object? It doesn't. All I'm saying is be ready. Be ready for something crazier than you could even imagine, because they have technology crazier than any of us could imagine. And if you're watching this and you just think I'm completely off my rocker, you need to watch it a little closer, because this is supposedly real footage of a real rocket. Tell me how this giant thing is balancing like this and then getting caught by these said chopsticks. You're watching. It's holograms, the TV, they cut and they try to fool you.